On traveling. Alright. Traveling opens the doors to thousands of different cultures, religions, and ways of living. The unknown, from the moment you decide where you're going to the planning of the travel and where you're going to stay, you don't know exactly what to expect. There is always a feeling of unknown lingering when you are in different countries. In my recent trip to Ecuador, I experienced so many new things, from culture to being off the beaten path. The people there were so kind and welcoming. They seemed genuinely happy to have us there. They were always happy to lend us a hand or point us in the right direction when needed. When we were welcomed into their homes, where they fed us home-cooked meals and were treated like family. However, being a tourist in a different country can also have its downside. Not everyone was happy we were there. Sometimes we were called gringos and looked at as ignorant Americans. There were times when I did not feel we were welcomed. And then there was one time I was in the Bahamas. The vendors looked at everyone like their source of income, because the reality is that tourism is their source of income and they rely on it heavily. When I was in the Bahamas, I didn't really get to experience the culture as much because we stayed at a resort. But while we were on the beach, the locals walked up and down, trying their hardest to get us to buy cigars, tours of the other local islands, or getting your hair braided and mixed drinks and coconuts. It didn't bother us because we knew this is how they make their money. The experience I've had traveling are unforgettable, and I'll always remember the different things I've seen and all the history I've witnessed. I've been to some awesome places, like our nation's Capitol building in the Andes Mountains. Getting to see all the historical buildings and monuments in DC was an absolutely amazing experience in itself, and I got to see it with all my friends, which made it even cooler. But being in a different country with people that you barely know and getting to do something that makes a difference in the world gives it an unexplainable feeling. Yeah, the group I was in got our stuff stolen, but we didn't care. That didn't stop us from making a change. In some sort of way, it brought us closer together, and we still had a lot of fun. One of the girls in my group said, "Why would they do this when we were here to help?" We didn't really understand why that happened to us, but I guess it was just meant to be. Those people needed our replaceable possessions more than we did. We focused on the fact that we're just lucky none of us were hurt. A couple days later, we went to the mangroves, and it was like nothing I've ever seen before. It was these giant trees that looked like fingers plunged into the ground. After we got a tour of the mangroves on a little boat, we went and planted some seeds that looked like E.T.'s fingers, like with the light. While we were planting, we had a huge mud fight, and we got all our aggression out that we built up from days of hard traveling and exhaustion. After we got it all out, it felt a little better. Once we got back on the boat, the next day we had an 8-hour bus to Cuenca for the last part of our trip. While in Cuenca, we went on a hike in the Andes at a 12,000-foot elevation. It was a little hard to get adjusted to the air. On the bus ride back to the hostel, a girl actually threw up on the bus. I felt really bad for her because we all had to deal with it. A couple days later, we left. I was sad when we got back. I'll remember that trip forever. Traveling is an experience in its own. One of the great benefits of traveling is food. I probably had the best food there so far while I was in Ecuador. The flavors were way different than any of the food I've ever had. I gotta say, it was way better than soul food. I think the culture was a huge part on the influence of the food. Almost every meal they have in Ecuador was with rice because it's so cheap there, and some of the families can only just afford that. It is completely different from here. We are so spoiled with how many different options we have for food. Traveling is my favorite thing to do, even if it's going around the bay to places I haven't been and getting to see new things. I chose this as my passion because this is when I'm happiest, traveling to new places.